So, partner, sino nga ba ang ating guest speaker?
So our speaker for today, partner, is from St. Paul University of Manila. She is a computer science student, a content creator, and also the co-founder and marketing director of an organization called Algo Filipino. And her topic for today will be web development in 2021. Also, meron din siyang hopes for the future of IT industry. It is for an equal, empowered, and more engaging community, bringing forth innovation for the common good of all.
So,
So,
introducing
let's
Atcha Abe.
Hello everyone! Hi! Kamusta? Hello! Okay po ba kayo?
Hello
React
po.
naman kayo dyan sa mga participants natin today. Hello!
Yes po, Miss Acha.
Okay,
Thank you
so
po.
I will show my presentation. Okay, nakita yung screen ko?
Yes po.
Okay. Hello everyone! Thank you IT Society and St. Paul QC for inviting me. Today we're going to talk about web development in 2021. So our theme for today is IT webinar series shaping the online world through web development. So thank you Carlo for introducing me and Timothy. So yes, I am still a computer science student. I am from St. Paul University, Manila. I am a proud Polinian for 17 years. And I am also the core group member of our organization, the Junior Philippine Computer Society, SPU Manila chapter. So, in Web Development 2021, we're going to answer the question, how can we shape the online world through web development? So, we're going to have a roadmap to answer this question. So, yes, we can shape the online world. So before we dive into that, first we're going to learn what is development, followed by the different roles of web developers. There are different kinds of web developers. And the third is we're going to talk about the latest and the trending 2021 technologies in web development. And the last, after learning everything about web development, what are the roles in web development, that technologies. Next is we're going to take action. So, of course, syempre, kailangan hindi lang nasa stock yung natututunan natin. Dapat napapractice din natin na i-apply siya and to take action, taking the next step on how we're really going to shape the online world through web development. So, first, let's go into the history of web development. So web development is defined as a process of creating web pages into the browser. Especially if you're going to create web applications, web pages, we need an internet in order to access it from the browser. So there are three different types of processes. We have client, which is in the front end, the server, the back end, and of course, we also need a database. There are two kinds of websites. We have static and dynamic. So a static website is, for short, to easily remember it, what you see is what you get. So the users or the viewers, if you have a static website, it only displays information. It doesn't need an interaction. The users don't have to put data into it, don't need to control anything. So that is the difference with dynamic. A dynamic website is where the users can input data, it can store data, it can give an output once you put your data into the website. So that is the difference between the two. So now we're going to talk a little more technical in the process of web development, starting with front end. So the client side is the front end. So it includes a local computer and a browser, as I have mentioned. And the next is we have back end. In here we have the server side. We have here the source code where the developers put the architecture, the commands, and that depends on the requirements and the functionality. They also create here the applications, and they also do database handling. And next is the server, which is the database itself. This includes the information or a data that is processed, and this is where we retrieve and store data. So there are also different roles. So there hindi lang siya web developer. We have different roles in the field of web development. We have a web designer, a front end, back end, and full stack. Ayan, masyado ba ako mabilis, guys? Sabihin niyo lang ako mabilis ako masyado. Ayan. Okay, so di ba nabanggit ko, maraming web developers. So, may mga front-end, back-end, full stack, ayan. So, ito, meme lang, sabi niya, akala ko kapag alam mo HTML, developer ka na. Sabi naman nung ka-programmer niya, how to make lumpia. Ayan, joke lang yan. Pero, ayan, okay. So, I'm going to show you 2 different videos and I want you to observe them. This is 2 videos showing the environment of web developers. So, you listen to what they're talking about, and then I will ask you later ano sa tingin niya yung pinagkaiba-iba ng mga web developers.
The mysterious life of developers has been incomprehensible for a long time, until now. This is one of the most common species of developer. This is the cliché developer, which can be spotted by the conference t-shirt and the pale skin. The main source of nutrition is a black carbonated liquid which is devoured in a large quantity. This separates him from the more rare hipster developer observed here. This species only drinks warm liquids based on expensive spices and beans, and its only tool is a so-called Macintosh. The hipster developer will often refuse to work with tasks such as SQL databases or Java. Notice how this specimen also makes use of the trackpad attached to his portable Macintosh. For many individuals in the herd, it is considered prestigious to not utilize this unit at all. The herd all work together towards a common goal, a goal set by the project owner. When the project owner is present, the developers often hide digital images of cats from their screens. The mere presence of the project owner implies danger to the herd, and their suspicion is justified. The developers are now rushing to find the problem. Everyone wants to be first. This one seems to have a fix ready. If he can be the one to first push to Git version control, he will be the hero of the day. Oh, seems like another one fixed it as well. And he pushed first. Fascinating. Victory. This developer has gained the approval of the herd and can go to lunch with a smile on his face.
Okay, so that is the first video. Okay, this is the second video. So you observe the different environments of a web developer.
Dude, what's going on?
Hey.
Is that your coffee?
Yeah.
Oh, you cannot beat that French roast. Listen, the Vino.com site is down again, so I'm gonna need you to take a look at that first thing.
I'm
Like the very first thing.
well, I'm
Okay,
working.
great, thanks, bro.
Hey, Randy. So I was just talking to my client. They think our site needs more UX. I think they said something about more UI too. So, do a little more with the UX and the UI and awesome. You're the best.
No, well,
Hey, Nico.
that doesn't make any sense.
Rando, killing it. Site's back up again. Great work, bro. Found it. Good for you.
I didn't do anything.
Sup, man? You're gonna love this. I just signed this new client. It's Tinder meets Uber meets Periscope. Except for horses. It's gonna be huge. They need that site ASAP.
Hey, Randy, while I got you here, listen, I just got off the phone with the client. They said that the site is down again. Could you believe it? I need you to work your magic.
Hey, we really can't move the launch date, but we don't have any content yet. Can you just put up some filler content, none of that Latin or Greek copy? Oh, and make sure it's responsible design too.
I think you mean,
And I'd like to get some video. I don't know what we can have though. So if you could just kind of like throw something together, open video that you have to play around and, video what it's going to look like. But again, I'm just not really sure what we're going to do.
site's down?
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just say the site's down?
No,
I thought we had everything ready to go.
no, I'm
I
sorry.
don't
This is a
understand.
different conversation. It's not,
Oh,
your site's
no.
totally fine.
I'm sorry, so our site is up. Okay, so if I log on right now,
What a week. You would not believe the people I've had to
We've
deal
all
with.
had that, man.
I'm just, 3-day weekend,
Yeah, about that.
Site's loading a little slow on the CEO's computer. Not his work computer, but his home computer. I'm gonna take a little look at that right now. Man, there's gotta be a better way to do this. Yeah.
Okay, so hello everyone. Okay pa ba kayo? Ayan. So from the videos, what have you observed? Anyone? And feel free to unmute. Hello. Hi, Carlo.
I'll be the first na muna.
Okay.
Ang observe ko is offices are full of it is comprised of people with different traits and specialties, and of course they influence each other either positively or negatively, but it depends always on a person kung paano nila dalhin yung or paano nila ma-accomplish yung goals nila nang sama-sama sila as a team. So yun po yung parang pinaka nakikita ko sa pagdating sa video ng mga web developers.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Specifically focusing yung role talaga nila as a team or as an individual. Ano yung na-realize nyo pag ikaw ay isang web developer? What do you encounter? Ayan, hello guys. Ayan, Timothy, hi, hello.
Hello. Yung para sa akin naman, yung nakita kong parang as a web developer, nakaka-encounter sila ng parang mga nakakatakot na part din tulad nung kanina na binigyan sila ng note na may bug. Tapos syempre, unahan sila kung kanino mapupunta yung credit eh.
Mm-mm.
So parang may rin, in a way, may kahit nasa workspace kayo, may competition rin na nagaganap.
Mm-mm.
Na nag-uunahan din sa sa goal, sa sabihin natin deadline, parang ganun.
Okay, how about naman yung isang video? Ano yung napansin mo naman sa kanya? Kasi 'di ba mag-isa lang siya.
Oo, yung sa isa naman napansin ko, parang akala ng mga niya, coworker, siya lahat gumagawa ng pero sa in reality hindi naman talaga siya, tulad nung kanina. Sinabi yung lalaki na ayos na raw yung site, pero wala naman siyang ginawa.
Oo. Ayun. Sige. Thank you guys. Okay, going back. Ayan. Tama yung observations nyo. So now there are actually different types of web developers. Although a web developer, when you hear about a web developer, it is a generalized term din kasi siya. So in this presentation, you're going to see symbols such as these circles that I'm also going to use later in the slides to identify each technology and kung ano yung ginagamit ng technology ng bawat developer. So there are actually three types ng web developers, although I included another one, which is web designers. So starting with web designers, kasi I observed this kasi I'm also working in I am a social media assistant at a company na we hire developers. So I have observed din na It depends pala. 'Di ba nakita niyo yung video, yung company A per se, they work as a team. While dun sa company B, mag-isa lang siya. So, if you're going to pursue web development and if you want to become a web developer, it depends then sa environment that you're going to be in. And sa experience ko, working with the company that I am in, they also consider na developers yung kanilang graphic designers, so web designers. Kasi when you're a web designer and a graphic designer, ito na yung, di ba, napansin nyo at sabi dun sa second video, sabi ni client, kailangan daw nila ng UI, ng UX, ganun-ganon. So, ang difference kasi diba, sinabi ng babae, basta yun. So, magkaiba ang UI sa UX. We often encounter the term UI and UX, but they're different, although still similar in a common goal. So, UI or user interface, this focuses on the visual elements. The display itself on the screen, kung ano yung nakikita ni user, kung gaano siya ka-attractive, kung gaano siya ka-simple, ganon. And UX is known as user experience. Dito naman, nakafocus yung designer or developer sa usability ng mismong display or interface. The UX designers or UX developers, they merely focus on the interactivity of the website itself. And also, from what I have observed in our environment, the graphic designers, they also create prototypes of the web application before giving the proposal to the developers or the programmers themselves. So, graphic designers, they create prototypes wherein hindi pa siya naka-deploy talaga. A prototype is gumagawa lang sila ng sample na ito yung magiging itsura ng website, ganito yung functionality niya. So, I think web designers can also become web developers. We always have to consider when we're going to go into the field of web development na there are different roles and it goes hand in hand, depende din. So yun nga, tulad nung nakita nyo kanina, minsan it's possible that you can be on a team or you can be alone, which is really hard. So next is front end. So in front end development, this also involves the user interface. But however, they use technologies, the common technologies that they use. So I'm going to use the word technologies kasi I have learned then na kapag tinanong ka kasi, if you want to be hired as a developer, the common thing that they ask is, what technologies do you know? So, syempre, di ba, as a student, pag tinanong ka, anong technologies? Ano daw? Kasi di ba, ang pagkakaintindi natin ng technologies, mga programming language. However, if you're going to the field of development and programming languages are not the only technologies that we know, di ba? So we also know the mga database and other things sa mga hosting services that we need in order to create yung website. So if you're going to ask, so next time, if you're going to ask what technologies that you know, hindi lang programming languages yung pwede mong sabihin. So you can also say na I know .NET, I know PHP kasi those programming languages or technologies rather are the languages or technologies used pagdating sa mga database, mga server side. So yun yung technical things na kailangan natin ma-identify. So in this case, front end, the common technologies are HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Although you can also use different frameworks and libraries para mas mapadali yung pag-develop nyo ng user interface. So I will explain it further later. So next is backend. So backend developer, again, this is server side, and the technologies that most backend developers use are JavaScript, Python, C#, PHP, and or MySQL. So this is more on the architecture, the application, and the database handling. And last is full stack. So a full stack developer exists. So ano ba ibig sabihin ng full stack? Full stack means it's a stack between the front end and the back end. So pag sinabing full stack ka, kailangan alam mo lahat from front end to back end. And in this case, you also need to know the technologies na mga ginagamit sa UI, UX. You also have to learn how to design. So di ba napansin nyo nga, possible na as a developer mag-isa ka lang. And those developers na mag-isa, they are considered, depends on their expertise. If they know everything from front end to back end, it is considered you are a full stack developer. So, however, dun nga sa video, ina-expect ng mga tao siguro na full stack siya, di ba? Na full stack developer yung guy dun sa second video. Although this depends. And pag sinabi kasing full stack developer ka, you can replace a team of 20 developers, mga ganon. Ganon ka kagaling. So, a full stack developer is a one-man team, ganon. Most companies prefer full stack developers kasi 'di ba pag mas mapapadali yung trabaho pag isa lang yung kukunin nilang developer, unlike kapag a team pa, mahirap siya and madami, it takes too much time. So that is the difference between each roles of web developer. Okay, so what do web developers need? So again, I have used yung legends, so FS, full stack, BE, backend, WD, web designer or graphic designer, and FE's front end. So of course, as a full stack developer, so magsa-start tayo sa left side, kailangan of course meron siya ng lahat. So as a developer, you need of course, you need a computer. So syempre, paano ka makagawa ng web app kung wala kang computer? And depends on your computer, you also need your operating system, mga Windows, Linux, yan, OS, ayan, mga iOS. And second is after you have the first number one is next is you need to have your code text editor. So kayo ba guys, ano ba yung mga ginagamit nyo currently sa subjects nyo na code text editor? Notepad++ din ba?
Sublime po.
Sublime. Hi Clarice. Ayun, Sublime, yes. Okay, maganda din yung Sublime. So I use VS Code. Sa amin kasi sa St. Paul University, Manila, we use Notepad++. But my classmates prefer din Sublime kasi 'di ba ang kinagandahan sa Sublime is makulay siya. So mas na-identify natin kung na-identify natin yung bawat methods, properties, functionalities, and mas madali ma-identify yung error. Ako kasi personally, naalala ko nung nasa web development class kami, nakakatawa kasi naka-Notepad++ ako, tapos yung mga classmates ko naka-Sublime. Tapos sabi nila, Atcha kasi tawag nila sa akin. So, Atcha, hindi ko ma-solve yung code. Sabi ko, ano ba yan? Nakala ko kaya kayo nag-Sublime kasi makikita niyo yung error. So, depende din yung talaga. And natutunan ko, madaming nag-recommend ng VS Code or Visual Studio Code kasi nag-transition na din ako this year sa VS Code. Ang kinagandahan kasi sa Visual Studio Code is pag nagko-code ka, madami na ding mga packages and libraries na hindi mo na kailangan i-install outside the application. So let's say, tsaka ang maganda dito is kung nagko-code ka HTML, 'di ba pag Sublime or Notepad++, kailangan mo siya i-type yung opening tag and closing tag manually. Ang kinagandahan sa Visual Studio Code, naka-prepare na. So, pag tinype mo yung opening tag, pag in-enter mo, may closing tag na agad siya. So, mas efficient mag-code sa VS Code. Ayan. Other text editors then is we have Vim. And next is, of course, we also need web browser. Paano natin mararan yung ating website or yung code natin kung wala tayong web browser? Siyempre, para makita natin yung interface. So, one of the examples of a web browser, we have Chrome, Microsoft Edge, Brave, we have Firefox. Ayan. And number 4 is a terminal. So an example of a terminal is the default terminal. The default terminal is based then on the operating system that you are using. We have PowerShell and Git Bash. So ano ba ang terminal? Ang terminal is a text base that serves as a command line interface or CLI where you can type your commands in it. A shell takes these commands and tells the operating system to execute them. Siyempre, di ba, ang lalim nung definition. So, to make it simple, a terminal is, for example, like an airport terminal. This is where you go. So, for example, tayo yung code. This is where we go to the terminal kasi doon tayo naka-assign kuwari sa flight natin. And the shell yung nagte-take ng commands is these are, for example, dun nga sa analogy is yung mga crew, mga FA, mga staff na nagte-tell dun sa operating system or per se yung airline kung paano sila i-guide or i-execute. So, ayun siya. I hope you understand that, guys. And last is design software. So, dito naglagay ako ng WD tsaka FE kasi it's optional to for the back end and optional to for the back end, although needed to ni full stack. So design software, this is more on the web design and the front end. So we have Adobe XD, Photoshop, Figma, we have Sketch. So a design software, we have different design softwares para tulad nga nung sinabi ko kanina, kasi 'di ba mahirap kung i-code mo siya agad yung user interface kasi 'di ba mahirap mag-adjust. So before you put your design into code, we have design softwares for you to visualize muna kung ano yung magiging itsura ng web application mo. So, an example is Figma. So, I use Figma. Ayan. So, Figma is a free application. It can be web-based and it can be an application-based. So, you can use Figma on your browser and also you can download it. For me, since I'm using Figma, I'm using it all the time. Dinownload ko yung application version niya. So, dito ako nagpa-practice ng user interface ko. So, mahilig ako sa kape. So, ayan siya. Then, ito siya, hindi siya naka-code. You just have to design it. And, ayan yung home. Ito yung landing page niya. So, this is where you can design. This is called a prototype, meaning hindi pa talaga siya put into code. This is just an example. And then, dito din makikita mo kung how are you going to create the functions ng mga navigation mo, ng mga buttons. And dito din ako gumagawa ng PowerPoint. So, kung wari, you want to practice yung design skills nyo. Maganda sa Figma, it is a really powerful tool, not just for wireframing and prototyping. Dito ka din mapapractice yung design skills mo. So, this is where I created my PowerPoint. So, kahapon, meron kaming app development class. So, sabi sa amin, pinagawa kami ng Venn diagram in 10 minutes lang. So, ayan. So, dito din ako gumawa ng mga modules, activities, pina-differentiate sa amin yung website and web app. And kung wari, hindi mo alam kung hindi mo talaga strength yung designing, ang maganda dito is when you create a new project, pwede ka din, we have plugins or meron tayong mga templates na pwedeng gamitin, then i-edit na lang siya. So, yun yung maganda sa Figma. Ayan. Pero na nag-a-advertise ng Figma. Pero I really recommend it, guys. Or kung Adobe XD. Adobe XD is a prototyping tool din na you can use before putting everything into hard code. Ayan. So, first we're going to... okay. Ayan. So, we're going to talk about the user interface. So, this is for the aspiring web designers, graphic designers, and front-end developers. So, in the user interface, we always have to consider the following. So, first, on the left side is the color and contrast. It should always be clean, simple, readable, hindi yung pinagsiksik na information sa isang web page. Hindi siya overwhelming, hindi siya masakit sa mata. The colors must be complemented with each other. So, although kahit ako hindi din ako magaling sa color matching. So, dun nga sa Figma, meron dong plug-in na tinetest niya kung nagko-complement ba sila sa isa't isa. So, you can use different applications for that if you're having a hard time. So, clean, simple, and readable. Next is white space. This means this is about the spacing between the elements. So make sure yung margin and padding is equally relative with each other. Hindi siya masyadong malapit, hindi siya masyadong malayo. And next is scale, sizing relative to other elements. So if you have objects or vectors na gagawin mo, if you want to create it from scratch, so make sure na they are relatively sized with each other. So for example, itong check list. Kung wari, ginawa mo to mano-mano. You always have to make sure yung sizing niya is equal with each other and pantay-pantay siya. And next is hierarchy. So in order to create, you also have to consider in creating yung web page mo, you have to arrange it in order based on the importance. So for example, gusto mo gumawa ng portfolio models about showing yung mga projects na ginawa mo. So kapag gumawa ng portfolio, ano ba uunahin mo? Yung about me or yung contacts? So of course, when you create your web page, kailangan mo muna introduce sarili mo before you dive in yung contact me, yung mga contact details, ganon. So, this is what we have to consider, yung order ng mga information or ng mga menus, ng mga navigations na i-include natin sa webpage natin. Or kung wari, let's say, gusto din natin gumawa ng mock-up ng Shopee, di ba? Or Lazada, kasi birthday na ni Lazada bukas, di ba? So, ang example dyan is, kung wari, gagawa ka ng login, ng parang mock-up na online store, ganun. So, syempre, bago mag-log out, kailangan nyo muna mag-login. Hindi pwedeng log out agad, pero hindi pa siya naka-login. Yung mga ganun. These are things you have to consider. Or kaya, may check-out na agad, pero hindi ka pa nakakapili ng item. So, that is an example of the user interface that also have to consider the order of each feature or functionality ng requirements ng isang website. And last is typography. The text type, hindi masyadong, ano yun, meron tayo, diba, yung mga funny na font style. So, yung, di ba, may mga symbol na font style. So, yung typography, as much as possible, simple, mga text types, mga font families, simple and clean, and yung sizing. So, that's one thing you have to consider. Ayan. And this is an example of a website that I made. So, mahilig kasi talaga ako sa kape, guys. Adik ako sa kape. So, ito yung ginawa kong website, a responsive design website nung workshop namin last March 7. So, this is inspired from Kopiko. So, ang ginawa namin dito is to make it a responsive website. Meaning, kahit i-minimize mo siya or sa different device mo siya binuksan, naka-respond siya depende dun sa frame nung device. So, in this case, this is the size of a desktop website. So, ganyan yung itsura niya pag desktop. So, I'm going to show you yung itsura niya talaga. Ayan. So, this is the example nung ginawa namin sa workshop. This is the parts ng web page. So, we have the header. In the header section, we have the logo and the navigation or the menus. And at the bottom, we have the contact part or the footer. This is the footer part. So, sometimes we have divisions din. Depending on what type of web page you're creating. But in this case, since this is just a information lang nung web page, pinapakita lang dito yung tagline, a bit information. So if you want to learn more, you can click this, and yung products. So responsive design siya kasi nakikita dito na you can scroll, yung i-glide mo yung mga products. So, and then sa contact, you can hover it. Ayan. So, this is actually unfinished. So, nung gumawa kami ng workshop, sabi ko, ano ba yung na-observe nyo? Looking, kumari, imagine yourself as a designer. Kasi sabi ko sa kanila, hindi pa tayo tapos, may mali dito. So, sabi ko, sa tingin nyo, ano yung mali? So, if you're going to observe, guys, ano sa tingin nyo yung needs improvement pagdating sa user interface nitong website na to? Ayan. Nandiyan pa ba kayo, guys? So, pakita ko lang ulit. So, unmute lang kayo. So, ito yung itsura niya. Ano yung na-observe nyo sa overall design niya? What needs to be improved?
Hello.
Hello.
Sa tingin ko is tingin ko wala siyang about us, and yung content niya sa homepage is magkakaroon ka ng readability issue kasi maliit yung font and masyadong marami yung nakasulat. Yun lang yung opinion ko.
Oo. Pero ito namang Lauren Ipsum, ano lang yan, sample lang yan. Pero okay, that's good. That's a good point. Thank you. How about the others? Merong malapit na eh. Meron tayong mapapansin dito na needs improvement. Ayan.
Hello?
Hello?
Yung feeling ko dyan sa yung sa slide na yan.
Ito,
Kasi
okay.
pag binuksan mo yung yung website,
Mm-mm.
parang wala siyang indication na slide siya.
So so you're saying nakawari kapag ni-reload ko, akala mo yan lang yun,
Oo,
ganun.
yan lang. Parang
Okay, thank you. What else, guys? Meron pa.
Hello?
Hello. Yan.
Napansin ko lang po yung color, yung contrast ng colors dun sa text.
Okay.
Parang yung iba po na na hindi po ganun kalinaw yung mata. Medyo mahirapan siyang mabasa kasi hindi siya ganun ka-contrast sa background.
Yan, that's true. That's very good. Yes, thank you. What else? Meron pa, guys.
Hello?
Hello.
Siguro po yung spacing dyan po sa slide.
Spacing ng bawat products?
May malaki, may maliit po.
Ayun yung hinahanap kong sagot. Thank you. Ayan. So, tama. Ito yung isa din sa mga kailangan natin i-consider is yung size. So, pansin nyo, di ba si 78, parang ang unreal, naman niya, tignan, masyado siyang malaki. So, and then, syempre, yung mga packs, itong twin pack, masyadong maliit. Ito namang, ito yung, di ba, itong pack, maliit siya, daig pa niya tong mag-isang pack. Ayan. So, ayun guys, thank you. Very good. Tama yung mga sagot nyo and very good observations. So, these are the things na we have to consider in creating the user interface. Yung size, readability, contrast ng colors, and ayun, I told them to improve this. And wait, pakita ko yung so one participant created this and papakita ko sa inyo kung paano niya in-improve. So nag-send siya sa akin ng ng website niya. So ginawa niya din to from scratch. Okay. Ito lang tayo sa YouTube channel ko, guys. So guys, nasa YouTube din ako. Okay, so, hindi pala dito. Wait lang. Okay. He took the challenge and these are the parts na in-improve niya. Di pa siya naka-public, guys. Kailangan ko muna i-unlist yung video. But if you need, nasa GitHub repository ko siya. So, kung kailangan nyo ng copy and if you want to try it out, you may. So, dito tayo. Ayan. So, dito sa video, pinakita ko kung paano natin siya ginawa. Ayan. So, dito, so we have a participant here and he is Felix Diaz. So, ginawa niya trinay niya tong challenge and ang kanyang web hosting is Netlify. Ayan, ito yung itsura ng portfolio niya. And di ba ma-observe nyo, there needs to, may mga kailangan improve, ganon. And, ayan. So dito, nilagay niya sa portfolio niya yung ginawa namin ng workshop namin, yung simple landing page. Ayan. And ito yung in-improve niya. So tama yung mga sinabi niyo na pag ni-refresh, diba, pag ni-refresh, parang hindi mo mapapansin na gumagalaw pala siya. And yun nga, yung sizing din, and yung contrast ng color. So, kung ma-observe nyo, ano dito yung na-improve? And alin dito yung kailangan pang i-improve? And so, di ba nakikita nyo, automatic na siya, di ba? Ang galing. Although, meron pang kailangan i-improve. Ano yun? Ayan, hello guys.
Hel- Hello?
Hello?
Yung size parang ganun pa rin yata.
Oo, ganun pa din. Yes, tama. Okay, what else, guys?
How about po dun sa home menu, what's new contact na part po? Parang masyadong maliit po siya.
Masyadong maliit. Pero tignan nyo to, kapag hino-hover siya, nag-iiba yung kulay, pero hindi halata, di ba? Ayan. So, yun yung mga ginawa niya. Tapos, eto din, pag hinover mo yung learn more, nagwa-white siya, pero hindi obvious. Tapos, inayos na nga niya yung text. And may nagsabi kanina na yung contrast, di ba, ng text, hindi niya din iniba yun. So, a tip here is you can change this to white para mas kita, and yung observations nyo nga, yung text, and ito, masyadong malapit yung logo, pwedeng ibaba pa ng konti yung margin. So, yun yung things na we have to consider sa user interface. Ayan, thank you guys for participating. Okay. So, next is, kapag nagawa na natin yung ating user interface or ating webpage, of course, we have to deploy it. So, these are the things that we have to consider in front-end deployment. So, these are, tulad ng legend, this is for front-end developers and full-stack developers. These are the things that they have to consider. So, starting with static hosting. So, static hosting, like a static website or web page, what you see is what you get again, and it doesn't need any interaction or hindi kailangan ng user na mag-input ng data or something like that. An example of hosting applications or web hosting na nag-offer is Netlify, GitHub Pages, and Heroku. So, hindi ko pa natatry na, nasa GitHub ako, na-try ko na, pero yung GitHub Pages, not yet. And Netlify, tina-observe ko na most developers use din kapag free, gusto niyo ng free web hosting. Although sa web hosting, they charge kasi ba minsan, when you want a domain name, gusto mo kung wari, Atcha .com.ph, mga ganon. Yung iba kasi may bayad. Kaya yung if you're going to use free web hosting, sometimes may nakalagay na tulad nung kanina, .netlify dun sa URL. So yun. And then cPanel hosting, the difference between static and cPanel hosting is that cPanel is a web hosting control panel that provides web hosting to manage their website and shared server. So this is more of interactivity, non-processing ng data. We have InMotion, HostGator, and Bluehost. Next is Git. So Git is a continuous deployment by pushing into a repository. So wait lang. I have here Git's, this is according to Git. So Git is, para mas maintindihan pa natin, Git is a free and open source distributed version control system. And it is designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. So this is a repository where, di ba napansin nyo kanina, napansin yung Git version control dun sa unang video. So kaya napapansin nyo, di ba tayo kasi students, when we work as a team in creating programs, minsan sinisend pa natin. Unlike Git, so this is a version control wherein may repository and you can do it remotely, you can change. So, nag-update siya din yung mga code mo. Diba, napansin nyo, naunahan siya ng isang developer. So, that is, they're using Git. So, para hindi naghihintayan, there's no waiting time na kailangan ko pa ipasa yung code para ma-edit mo or ma-modify mo, something like that. And next is the FTP and SFTP. So, guys, dapat alam nyo to. Ano meaning ng FTP and SFTP? Ay, nako, hindi nila alam. Ano meaning ng FTP?
FTP, di ba, is File Transfer Protocol?
Yes, and how about SFTP? Ayun, pwede mag-Google.
Secured check.
Ayun!
Secured
Thank
File
you.
Transfer Protocol.
Okay, so an FTP or a file transfer protocol, it means that these transfer files from one computer to another. And a difference between the SFTP or Secure File Transfer Protocol, minsan tawag din dito is SSH, File Transfer Protocol, or Secure Shell File Transfer Protocol. Ang purpose naman niya is more on the security and the authentication of transferring files. So next is the SSH, or again, Secure Shell. This is a cryptographic network protocol for operating network services securely over a network. So simply put, the purpose of the secure shell is to secure connection, and it also provides remote command line interface. O diba nasa technical na talaga tayo. And the next is the server side. So this is for the back-end developers and full stack developers. So what you need to consider in the back-end or in the database, the server side, is of course the server itself. So the server focuses on data, modeling, HTTP requests, and responses. So we also have the server-side language. So as I have mentioned, these are the technologies that are used in the server side or the database handling. We have Node.js, Python, C#, Java, Ruby, Kotlin. So depende na din siya sa web application na gagamitin nyo din sa corresponding technology niya. And next is we have the server-side frameworks. So in PHP, we have Laravel. In Node, we have Express. C#, we have ASP.NET. So this is more on the back end. So we use frameworks. So frameworks, the meaning of frameworks, these support the development of web applications, including web services, resources, and web APIs or application programming interface. And next is database. So the technologies used are MySQL, PostgreSQL, MongoDB, and Firebase. So next is ORMs and ODM. So ORM stands for Object Relation Mapping and ODM stands for Object Document Mapping. So what is an Object Relation Mapping? So according to medium.com, ORMs are this is to map an object with a relational world. It basically converts data between incompatible types in object-oriented programming languages. So, syempre, di ba sa IT, NCS, inaaral natin yung object-oriented programming. So, ito yung mga makakatulong sa atin or ORM and ODM para mas mapadali pa yung development natin. So, ORM wraps the implementation of specific details of storage drivers in an application program interface and maps the relational fields to an object members. So simply put, for example, if I have a table of employees, it is mapped to a single object for all employees with various methods associated with it. So pag object-oriented programming, ina-identify natin kung ano yung mga objects and methods and kung ano yung nakakonect on each method and on each class. So, an ODM naman, which stands for Object Document Mapping, this maps an object with a document database like MongoDB. So, the main difference is that ORM is for MySQL databases while ODM does the mapping for document representation of data. So, another example para mas maintindihan pa natin yung ORM and ODM is para siyang Excel spreadsheet. So, di ba, in an Excel spreadsheet, we have the columns and rows. So, pag gagamit tayo ng ORM or in the analogy of an Excel spreadsheet, kapag gumamit ka ng ganong setup, you want to be sure you have a great plan on how you want to tackle the current application. It does not allow as many modifications like ODM. So, sa ORM, hindi gaano na modify yung mga data yung mga data or information na nasa row or column mo. And then with ODM, this is where you can modify it. You can add new fields and properties easily, but with ORM, when adding a new field, you need to keep in mind that nothing stays empty. So in ORM, kailangan may malagay ka talagang information doon. And it needs a value to be as default unless you want to go into each and modify siya isa-isa. Ayan. And so that's it for the front end and back end. So what is next? So now we learned what is web development, ano yung mga roles ng different web developers. So na-identify and na-differentiate na natin yung role ng each developer. So we have web designers and graphic designers. So those roles are optional. But however, meron talagang 3 main roles in web development. We have front end, back end, and full stack. So dun sa tatlo, alin yung nasa tingin yung nakikitaan nyo na pwede kayong maging? So in order to make it happen, tulad nung nandun sa roadmap natin, we need to take action and apply what we have learned for today. So what's next? And in order for us to yun nga, shape the online world through web development. So first, what do you prefer? So alin yung kayo guys, if ever you are given the chance. So I know, di ba, meron tayong iba-ibang gusto, kaya tayo nag-IT. So ano yung, kung magiging web developer kayo, ano sa tingin niyo yung mas prefer niyo dun sa 4 or 3? Web designer, graphic designer, front-end developer, back-end developer, or full-stack developer? Parang ang hirap, no? Ang dami pala, ang lalim pala, ganun. Kayo, guys.
Front-end na lang po ako.
Ayun, front-end. Bakit, Clarice? Bakit front-end?
Hindi na po ako sa designing para maging web designer.
So gusto mo improve yung designing skills mo?
Opo.
Ayun, ayan. Thank you, Clarice. How about the others? Ayan, if you want to be a front-end developer, yun nga, I suggest you explore Figma. Ayun din talaga, hindi din talaga ako confident dun sa designing skills ko, kaya gumagamit ako nun para ma-improve pa yung designing ko, mga user interface na functionality, ganun. How about the others? Sino dito yung gusto maging back-end developer?
Si Tim yata eh.
Ayun, Timothy, bakit? Bakit gusto mo maging back-end developer?
Ayoko po yung back-end.
Ayaw mo yung back-end. So ano gusto? Full stack?
Hindi, front.
Front-end, bakit?
Kasi yung back-end parang masyadong technical. Like yung front-end, parang ano lang eh, medyo relax eh, kasi design lang, ganun.
Oo, yung mga common na di ba? Well, actually naranasan na namin yan sa amin sa program namin. Akala namin madali lang kasi ako na-assign ako sa back-end. So parang ang hirap, tapos na agad yung front-end team. So, yun nga, in the outside world kasi, wait lang guys. Ayan, so in the outside world kasi, there are different technologies na we have to consider. And tulad, yung pinakita ko dun sa front-end deployment, madami pa talagang mas technical. So, if you guys want to check then, if you are an aspiring web developer, if you are an aspiring front-end developer, I suggest you check Traverse Media kung mahilig kayo manood ng tutorial sa YouTube. Kasi di ba puro Indiano yung pinapanood natin pag nagko-code tayo. So, an example is Traverse Media DevEd. They dive into the deeper technicality. So, doon natin madidiscover na, hindi lang pala user interface, design ang ginagawa ng mga front-end. So, ayun siya guys. So, sino naman gusto back-end? Or full stack? Wala, parang nakaka-intimidate ba or nakaka-overwhelm? Ayan. Front-end ba lahat? Ayan si Mark. Hello, Mark. Hello.
Sa back-end po kasi di naman po ako ganun kagaling pagdating sa mga design.
Ayun. Okay, thank you. Sino gusto full stack? Who wants to take the challenge of being a full stack developer? Ayan. So maraming misconceptions ang full stack guys kasi sometimes nakita nyo 'di ba dun sa second video parang hindi na makatarungan yung ginagawa dun sa developer kasi 'di ba mag-isa lang siya. Sabi dun sa example 'di ba may scene doon na nasa CR. Sabi niya may client daw gusto daw na parang ano yun? Yung parang apps na pinagsama-sama-sama tapos kailangan na daw agad. So yun yung mga cons ng full stack developer pag mag-isa ka kasi mataas yung expectations nila sa'yo. Pero a pro of being a full stack developer is that you have a big advantage or leverage pagdating sa pag-ano ng mga client kasi especially when they need it in a short amount of time, you can create it on your own. You don't have a team para to create or build the application. So, ayan. Thank you, guys. Okay. So, the next step is to create your learning plan. So we have, ano yun, how many? We have 2 front-end developers, 2 to 3 front-end developers. We have a back-end developer. So if you really want to pursue web development, the next step for you is to create a learning plan. So di ba syempre parang ang dami namang kailangan aralin. So take it step by step. So especially as di ba tayo tinuturo sa curriculum natin yung HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, start with that. And once nakapag nagamay mo na or na-master mo na yung on how to create static. So you can begin with creating static pages just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then move on to the next step. So create your learning plan. So, di ba, kumari, naiisip mo front-end na yung, parang gusto ko maging front-end developer. Ano ba yung kailangan ng front-end developer? So, di ba, we have discussed that mga technologies na ginagamit ng front-end developer and ano yung mga kailangan. So, take it step by step and create your learning plan para guided ka. Hindi nakaka-overwhelm, ang dami kong aaralin, ganun. And next is, kapag nagawa mo ng learning plan mo, learn the fundamentals and explore technologies. So, again, once you have mastered na yung fundamentals. In the industry kasi, we also have developers that are mga, how do I describe this, mga web-based. In demand kasi ngayon ang mga WordPress developers, if you're familiar, and in our company kasi where I am working, in demand din ng Shopify developers. If you're familiar din with Shopify, it is an avenue for online, creating online shops, diba? So, dun sa Shopify, gumagawa sila ng mga online stores, online shop, and syempre, para magawa yung mga online stores dun sa Shopify, kailangan nila ng developers. So, in demand, currently, in the industry, in demand ang WordPress and Shopify developers. Ayan, explore different technologies. Lagi tinuturo sa amin sa St. Paul, Manila is yun nga, to never stop learning, always think outside the box. And hindi lang tayo, we should not depend lang dun sa natutunan natin sa school. Kasi di ba we all know na technologies are ever changing, laging nagbabago, madaming bagong programming languages na ginagawa, di ba? And that's something we have to consider then, to always keep on learning and improving. And next is to identify learning method. By identifying learning method, di ba, we are different types of learners. Ako, I am an audio-visual learner. If I have more time, kung wari may kailangan na programming assignment, I take my time in watching tutorial videos. Naka-move on na ako sa Indiano. Guys, we also have Pinoy programmers na content creators. So, you can just look that up. They have a lot of tutorials. Hindi lang kasi sila, they don't have a big following. Pero, we have resources na pa, di ba minsan kasi mas nakakaintindi tayo pag Tagalog. So, we have coding tutorials for that. Mga basics, mga HTML, CSS, and there are also other references kung hindi ka naman visual, mahilig ka magbasa. Ay, di ka mahilig manood, mahilig ka naman magbasa, sorry. So, one of the best resources is W3 Schools. Kasi ang maganda naman kapag nagbabasa ka is, di ba, meron sa gilid, pwede ka mag-code and pwede mo i-try yung code mo. So, W3 Schools. Currently, I'm using Microsoft for our game development class. So, nag-aaral kami ngayon ng C#. And then, Stack Overflow. Di ba, alam nyo yan. Pag hindi nyo na maaning error, Stack Overflow. And once you identify your learning method, you create your own project. So, start practicing, experimenting, exploring, and yung own styles mo, and you can after creating your projects, don't forget then to ask for feedback, for comments, for constructive criticisms para mas ma-improve pa. So hindi dahil nagawa mo na ay okay, kaya ko na gawin to. So syempre our first projects are not always the best projects. Syempre pag we create more projects, we improve on it. So in order to improve, we always need to ask for feedback. Wari, pa-check mo to sa friend mo, o wari, pa-check mo to sa prof mo. Okay ba to? Okay ba itong gawa ko? Ano pa yung kailangan ko improve? And last is creating a portfolio. So this is the, I think, final step in being a web developer in this modern world, the new normal, is especially if you want to do freelance, Kunwari, if you want to start earning kahit nag-aaral ka pa and gusto mong gawing, let's say, sideline na pagiging web developer, I suggest you create a portfolio na tulad ng pinakita ko kanina, pakita natin yung kay Felix. Ayan, so ito yung portfolio niya. Siyempre, kailangan pa ito i-improve. So, siyempre, pag gagawa ka ng portfolio, papakilala mo kung sino ka. And ito yung sinasabi kong technologies. Ayan, ang technologies niya, React.js, Clone Apps, HTML, PHP, so wala daw siyang data, and Python. Tapos nakalagay sa baba yung footer niya. Nandito sa gilid yung mga contact details niya. I think this needs to improve pa. So ito yung, kung gagawa kayo ng portfolio, huwag kayong mahiya magpa-check, lalo na we have communities in social media na makakatulong para ma-improve pa. You ask feedback from professionals, mga developers, ayan. And once you created your portfolio, you can now apply or you can do freelancing. Ayan, so as early as now, you can be a web developer. You don't have to, hindi mo kailangan hintayin na makapagtapos ka pa to discover your full potential. So, I will end this presentation with a meme by Chris Aquino, di ba? Magiging web developer ka because. Bakit nga ba? Ayan. And I would also like to plug din. So, do you wonder how we can make our application accessible across all platforms that use a standards complaint browser, including both desktop and mobile devices? So, later at 6 p.m., di ba dami kong ganap, I will be hosting a webinar series. So, I work for Filta. So, I am their social media assistant and I will be hosting our webinar. So, guys, this is free with e-certificate. This is about the introduction to progressive web apps. So, this is helpful then, especially if you want to become a web developer in 2021. So, our speaker is Andresito de Guzman. He is a software engineer and the lead of the PWA Pilipinas. Ayan, Progressive Web App Pilipinas. So, thank you so much. So, you can follow me here on my YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, team. So, ayun. And actually, we are all amazed by the plethora of knowledge and skills na pinasent ngayon ni Miss Atcha. Thank you po for accepting our invite. Hindi ko pala alam na ganun pala ka-busy yung schedule niya.
It's okay.
Yeah, po. So, ayun, Timothy, meron ka bang ma-i-input, partner?
Oo nga grabe. Yung mundo pala ng web dev, no? Napaka malawak din. Marami. Yes. Pero dahil sa talk na to, naging aware ako na hindi lang pala siya basta-basta na parang design lang. Meron din palang back-end na kailangan i-consider rin kasi dun rin siya mag-work pala. Para
And actually, essential tong tong webinar natin kasi continuous yung growth natin as a student or even kapag graduate na tayo as practitioners. And also, important din to para ma-build natin yung friendships natin sa iba't ibang communities. So, si Miss Atcha galing po siya ng St. Paul, Manila. She can connect us to other people if it is possible.
Yes, so, of course.
Yun po. And then, kung nagtataka naman po kayo bakit po marami ng skills and knowledge Miss Atcha, she once also shared na one of her inspirations to be a computer science student is her mother, who is also working for the IT industry. Tama po ba yun, Miss Atcha?
Yes. So my mother, she is a systems analyst abroad, and she is also a Polinian since kinder. So Polinian na Polinian talaga, proud Polinian, ganun.
Yes po.
Grabe, manang-mana.
So ito na po yung pinaka-inaantay natin. We will now give the floor for the participants that have questions about our talk for today. So, is there anyone na may questions? Please, yes.
Hello?
Yes, Miss Clarice.
Yung ano po yung gamit yung sa design po?
Figma. 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 I have a video.
Ano po siya nag-download?
You can just search figma.com. Hindi mo pwede, there are two options. Pwedeng browser-based, pwedeng hindi mo siya i-download at dun ka gumawa, or you can download it. If you need a tutorial, I have a tutorial video about Figma. Just message me. I'll send you the link, or you can check on my YouTube channel. Ayan.
Thank you po.
Yun. So, ako rin po may tanong. Lagi ko po kasi nakikita yung Algo Filipino sa Facebook kasi ayun, madalas kami nagbabrowse talaga as millennials nga. Pwede niyo po bang introduce sa amin yung Algo Filipino?
Of course. Okay. So, eto, nandito siya sa, pakita ko lang saglit yung slide. Ay, nasa na ba yun? Wait lang Nawala pala. O sige, mag-ano na lang ako. Okay. Natanggal ko pala siya. So, ang Algo Filipino, so ako ay co-founder and marketing ng Algo Filipino. So ako lang dun yung Paulinian, Paulinian represent sa Algo Filipino. So kami ay isang non-profit tech organization mula sa nabubuo kami ng mga estudyante. So kapwa estudyante mula sa iba't ibang universidad na ang layunin namin ay ipalaganap at payamanin ang wikang Filipino sa larangan ng teknolohiya, mga programming, data structures, algorithms, at iba pa. So maliban dito, hindi lang kami nakatuon sa paano ba, ang hirap maghanap, no? Pure Tagalog, di ba? Pero pinapractice namin yun. So, hindi lang kami nakafocus sa hard skills. So, ang isa din sa mga mission namin is i-improve din yung soft skills, lalo na sa ating mga lalo na sa mga tao sa larangan ng teknolohiya kasi 'di ba common misconceptions kapag IT ka, nerd ka, introvert ka, ganon, 'di ba? So hindi ganon lahat ng kaso. So ang ginagawa namin ngayon sa Algo Filipino, nagbibigay kami ng mga libreng webinar at libreng workshop na talagang naghahanap kami ng mga tagapagsalita na talagang bihasa na sa teknolohiya. So dahil ngayong buwan ng Marso ay buwan ng mga kababaihan, ay nakatuon kami talaga sa mga aming tagapagsalita ay babae upang magbigay inspirasyon sa kapwa babae, pero hindi lang sa babae, para na din sa lahat ng mga tao sa industriya na may kakayahan din ang mga babae pagdating sa teknolohiya. So 3-day webinar at ang last day na namin ay bukas. So kung free kayo bukas, guys, abangan nyo yan. Di ko alam kung baka mag-host din ako doon. Pero madami kaming natackle these past few days. Nag-talk about kami about game development. Sila talaga mga nasa industriya na sila. Meron din mga estudyante na naging tagapagsalita. So bukas ang aming event ay 2 to 4 PM sa Algo Filipino page. Ayan. So ayun. Kung gusto niyo sumali, pwede kayo mag-apply, pwede maging miyembro, ganon.
So, ayun po. Thank you po for introducing Algo Filipino kasi yun po, kailangan din namin ng mga additional na connections and we're always looking for speakers kasi monthly talaga kami nagpa-facilitate or nag-join sa mga webinars. So thank you po for the input na binigay niyo sa amin. Are there others na may tanong pa? So please raise your hand and open thy mic.
Kung sakaling parang gusto mag-pursue as web developer, ano ba yung pwedeng gawin as early as of now habang student pa lang?
Ayun, dun sa last part ng presentation ko, those are the things that you can do. Wait, pakita ko lang ulit. Okay. So ito yung mga kailangan mo gawin even if you're a student. So this is anyone can do it kahit yung mga nakapagtapos na. So ano bang gusto mo maging web developer? 'Di ba you have mentioned kanina Mark you prefer back end, 'di ba?
Yes po.
Ayun. So sa back end ito yung mga kailangan nating i-consider sa back end, 'di ba? Yung mga aralin yung mga server-side language, architecture, computer architecture, server-side network, database, di ba? Malalalim. However, para hindi ka ma-overwhelm kasi di ba parang hala, ang lawak, ang dami, di ko alam kung saan magsisimula. So yun, you create a learning plan, learn the fundamentals. So yun nga, tulad nung sinabi ko kanina, maraming source maliban sa mga Indiano na YouTubers, di ba? Meron din tayong Filipino YouTubers na na nagtuturo in Tagalog about technology. And tulad ng sabi ko kanina, you can start by learning the fundamentals, yung mga HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Although alam ko, di ba, naturo na talaga sa atin yan. Kung confident ka na sa pag-create ng mga web pages, whether it may be static or dynamic, kasi syempre as a back-end developer, kailangan mo din intindihin what's in front or what's displayed on the screen. Kasi syempre, hindi ka makakagawa ng function sa back-end kung hindi mo nakikita kung saan siya nilalagay o saan siya nilalapat na function. So, yun yung something na i-consider mo. Kailangan mo din intindihin what goes on the front end. So, for the back-end, yun, learn SQL kasi diba database handling, learn the different kinds of mga database system, database fundamentals, yung mga different MySQL commands. Start with that. And especially, ang pagdating kasi sa database handling, kailangan mo din yung security. So how are you going to create commands that can protect the data that is inputted by the user, especially di ba yung mga passwords? How are you able to encrypt it by using SQL commands? So mga ganun. And after you identify din yung learning method, saan ka comfortable, you can start creating projects. Kahit simple, UI, kahit black and white. Kasi since you want to become a back-end developer, you focus on the back side or the server side. And ayun, you can create your portfolio din para mapakita mo na ito yung ginawa mo kahit student ka pa. Kasi magandang advantage yun tayo as a student na meron na tayong projects na nagagawa. Hindi naman kailangan pag sinabing pag gumawa ka ng portfolio is may client ka. So ito yung natutunan ko din sa Philta is kasi since we're hiring developers, I always interact with developers. Lagi sila nagpapacheck ng portfolio nila sa amin and parang tuwing nag-a-apply sila. Ang sabi nung recruiter is hindi naman kailangan in order to have a portfolio, kailangan client galing sa client. So, pwede mong ilagay yung mga personal projects mo, especially if you're really proud of it and confident ka na, eto, kaya ko to gawin. So, as a backend developer, you can do that by just creating simple UIs para din ma-showcase mo yung nagawa mo. So, as a backend developer, lagay mo na lang dun sa portfolio mo, ito yung mga technologies na ginamit mo, SQL o kaya MongoDB. So, ayun. Ayun, I hope I answered your question, Mark.
Thank you po.
So, others, meron pa po ba? Okay, tingin ko we're all set. I'll be sharing my screen muna. Nasaan na? So we'll proceed with the awarding of the certificate. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes po.
Okay. This certificate of appreciation is hereby given to Athena Abe in recognition of her invaluable contribution as resource speaker for the field trips and tours for BS Information Technology with the team Shaping the Online World Through Web Development, given this 26th of March 2021 via MS Teams webinars. So, Miss Atcha, we will be sending you the certificate after our signatories have placed their signatures on the certificate. So we thank you for having us today as a resource speaker, and we're very happy and contented with the content that you have provided, and it is very eye-opening even for us na mga third year na, and siguro pa I will speak na rin for the first year students kasi kapag na-introduce ka sa mga bagong bagay, mas madali mo na maintindihan in the future if ever na ma-encounter mo ulit. So I will now call on to Mr. Timothy to proceed with the closing remarks.
So thank you for that, Carlo. So once again, thank you ulit, Ms. Abe, for joining us, for sharing your experiences and knowledges in regards for web development. And thank you for everyone for joining this webinar series. I hope na lahat tayo may natutunan, lalo na for aspiring web developers. Sana na-inspire kayo sa mga teachings ni Ms. Abe. So, may I call upon Ms. Ponta and Sir Alparo for any additional closing remarks?
Hello?
Hello po, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Atcha, congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
It was a very informative talk. Okay, so sina Miss Maridel, si Sir Kerwin, si Sir Paul, si Miss Reg, nakwento ko sa kanila na ikaw ang speaker namin ngayon. So sabi nila, they are all very proud of you. Okay, so your CSIT family in SPU Manila are very proud of you dyan sa mga achievements mo.
Thank you
So
po.
yun lang, keep up the good work. And then for Carlo and team, congrats then for this very engaging seminar. So I hope nga na na-inspire tayo sa mga learnings and experiences na meron si Atcha. Okay? So yun lang.
Miss Fontanilla, invisible po ata. Ayun.
And this one and mute. Yan. Can you see me now? Yun. Hi. Thank you for being with the class or with the BSIT society this afternoon. I hope for those who are enrolled in, especially for those who are enrolled in web development class for this term, for this module, or for this tawag natin dyan, yung current cycle nila, they were able to relate, and also for those who have passed their web development classes, sana nakarelate din kayo. I like when you say it that everybody should not limit themselves with what they only will learn inside the classroom. So, kailangan laging ganon. Kailangan always think outside the box. I congratulate everyone, the organizer, and I would like to especially thank you, Athena. Ano ba yung nickname mo? I forgot.
Atcha po.
Atcha, for gracing the class, their seminars and tours class. We hope to invite you in the future again for a similar activity. Thank you.